winter wonderland. It's time for some beautiful long lens minimalism, and I have come out to one of my favorite lone trees here in Denmark. It's a shot I have wanted for years, to say the least. Now, I was out here a few years ago during snow, but the problem was that at that time it was actually snowing a little bit, so the ambient light was very, very flat, as ambient light usually is. And that means that photographing a lone tree on a hilltop, it basically just looks as if it's just like hovering right there in the air. But today I have some light, as you can see here in the background, even though the sun has like come down behind these clouds. It is enough to cast some shadows, and that makes sure that the foreground and the landscape looks much more dynamic. On top of that, I have a somewhat clear blue sky here with a few fluffy clouds. I did take a shot before where this cloud was a little bit further over. I quite like that. And I also had more light on the foreground. I have tried to see if I could bring in some kind of near immediate foreground, like this little pot of snow right there. But from this angle here, I have way too much mid-ground, even though the camera is all the way down here. You can see here's the composition. It does not work for me. I will try to move a little bit forward and handhold it, but I do think I prefer the first shot I got with the cloud above the tree and the clean foreground field right there. It's much more minimalist. So you can see moving a little bit forward here and having the camera all the way down in the snow right here. It actually gives quite a cool composition with those clean leading lines there in front. I put it ISO 100 f16, gives me a shutter speed of 1/60th of a second. And the reason why I have it on f16 is to get as much of the foreground somewhat in focus as possible. It will definitely be out of focus, but I think this here works pretty decent too. It's quite funny just driving around in this landscape that I know so well by now, and just seeing how it has changed. There's quite a lot of snow on the roads, and they're somewhat slippery somewhere, but luckily I'm pretty sure it's mandatory to have winter tires on in Denmark, at least for regular cars. It's not for trucks. We have a big discussion about that these days. But yeah, beautiful here, absolutely beautiful. Most of the trails around the landscape is open, so I can actually go and explore, but for now I just stick to the main road and try to capture some of my more well-known motifs. So I felt I would be remiss if I didn't also go and visit this one lone tree here, even though I just made an entire video from this place. If you haven't seen it, definitely do so, because I got some gorgeous photos. But now it's winter conditions, and I just didn't really know what I would expect from this, because the sun is coming down behind a cloud, and it's just, the light is a bit meh, it doesn't really know what it wants, and I have like this big line of clouds in the background that I'm not entirely sure I like. I will definitely have to brighten that up a little bit in post-processing, but I do think that I've found some compositions. It is quite simply the same compositions as before, but I've tried to play around with the foregrounds. I found these small mounds in the snow that actually makes for quite an interesting foreground. You can see the snow here, that it comes alive. There's some dynamics to it, and I quite like that. And I think all in all, it ends up being like a very painterly pastel color photo. So it is nice to have this one in the bank too, so you can compare it to the other photos that I've got from this location here. So speaking of the foreground, you can see here how you can actually see those small parts of the snow that make small hills in the foreground. I have tried to make a focus stack of this one here. I'm not sure if it will actually work, but else at the very least I just make sure that I focus on the tree. It is handhold, so as you can see, f13, ISO 100, and gives me a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. And as you can also see, I am quite close to the ground to make that foreground pop even more. But you shouldn't have any problems seeing those small mounds there in the snow, because with the sun being over there behind the trees, it is still lighting up the sky. And that creates these beautiful effects where you can see shadows and highlights in a very soft way on the snow that really makes it all pop out. So I did wait around for a little bit, just in the case that the sun would come out, because there was a chance, and so it did. So now I actually have light on the entire foreground, which looks absolutely beautiful. And that simply just means that it stands out much more, and you can see all those small mounts that I talked about before much better. I would have preferred another sky. I would actually preferred a clear sky today in this particular circumstance, or at the very least clouds that were more interesting than just like what looks like a front. And now I want to hear from you guys. Which one of these 3 photos do you enjoy the most? Each of them of course have their own quality, but I am interested to know which way you lean. If you haven't seen my video from 2 weeks back where I photographed this tree, definitely do so. I captured a favorite of mine. And if you want to learn more about composition and landscape photography, be sure to get my ebooks on exactly that topic. They're easy to read with minimal text and loads of examples. And this is all so you get to the point fast and actually learn something. There's a link down in the description of this video. So I just keep continuing driving around because I just want to explore and look at this. I can honestly say I don't think I in my entire life has seen this phenomena of snow on the trees here in Denmark. Like, we are talking 5 to 10 centimeters of snow on most branches, and it's just laying there because now it's super cold. It's like -6, 7, 8 degrees Celsius. So the snow will just stay on the branches. There's no wind after the snowstorm, and wow! Wow! Utterly impossible to photograph and get a compelling photo out of, but it looks beautiful. So good morning everyone. It is the coldest night we have had in, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years-ish here in Denmark. And it's absolutely gorgeous. You know those clear, frosty polar nights? And then you go out in the morning, not a cloud in the sky, which I would actually argue is very nice. And then you just have that frosty effect. Right now it's like -15 degrees Celsius. And I've come to this open area, heading up on top of this hill right there. Getting to the top of that hill was way harder than I expected. Took way longer than I'd expected. Oh, wow, the beautiful view up here is just amazing. So walking up here, I had to walk in like half a meter, 60 centimeters, snow and snow drifts, and then up the stairs that are just covered in snow. There were a few footprints from yesterday, I think. I guess it's a good way to start the year and see if I can drop some kilos after Christmas. Okay, so the idea for this morning is to photograph the famous Sky Mountain, but from a big distance. So I put up the camera here and you can see this is my composition. There's no way you can see it, but it's all the way out there. This is at 400mm and you can see right there, that's the tower on top of the hill. I have been there a few times before on this channel here, and I can link to the video up here. It was actually a really good video. Sadly, many of the videos that are my best videos never get the views that I think they deserve. So definitely check that one out afterwards. But the idea is to catch the sunrise behind that tower. I'm not entirely sure where the sun comes up. I have made my preparations, but I may actually have to run all the way back down the hill to actually capture the sun behind the tower. But we are talking very few degrees, so I will just have to adapt as the sun comes up, which it will in a few minutes. This is where you start questioning yourself, because the sun is coming up a little bit further to the left than what I'd expected. Hopefully the angle that the sun will rise in is so low that it will actually come behind the tower, but I'm not sure whether I should have been over here on this other hill. There's no way I can make it over there before it's too late. So yeah, I will probably have to run down the hill. That may be the solution, but let's see now that it comes up. So as expected, I had to go down because I was at the wrong angle, slightly wrong angle, but it's fine. I'll just go down and shoot it from here. As you can see out here in the background, the sun is coming up. It looks beautiful. The snow, the orange glow. Oh yeah, that sun is going to be so strong. Like once it's above that tower, just behind it, hopefully. So strong. It's one of those mornings where I just like had one thing in mind and then it's just, yeah, slightly off. And there it is. And the camera is almost dying with battery. Ah! I think I got it. Kapow! Beautiful.
As you probably saw, I was bracketing this scene as to capture details in both shadows and highlights. I could put it together with a simple HDR merge in Camera Raw, and from there I just balanced highlights and shadows, cleaned the photo and added some sharpness. All editing techniques I cover in my Photoshop course. So if you struggle with editing, it's definitely that course you want to watch, as I share all my editing techniques in that. Be sure to benefit from the coupon code down in the description of the video.
People are out skiing. Like it's obvious to do, but it's Denmark. It's not something you see every day. If you want to learn more about composition and landscape photography, be sure to get my ebooks down in the description. If you want to learn how to edit your photos, hone your Photoshop skills and so forth, be sure to enroll in my big course and use the coupon code to save a little bit of money upon enrolling. And I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.